New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Free my mind, open my heart with the whispers of truth, to live a conscious life, on the growing edge.
And now, here's Allie.
Good morning and welcome to Growing Edge Live. We are all about inspiring minds, healing hearts, and transforming lives. And I'm Allie Benjamin, and I'm so happy to be here today. Every Monday I get super excited because I'm going to have a conversation with an amazing individual that is doing just fabulous things in the world. And today I'm going to be interviewing and talking to a dear friend of mine, and I can't wait for you to meet her. We really do have some amazing conversations here with soul-centered individuals that are channeling their time, their talent, their energy into doing good works in the world. And so if you're here for the first time, I'm really glad that you're here. And if you're back, I'm so glad that you're back. We're really enjoying presenting these rich, inspiring conversations with people. So welcome to Growing Edge Live. So I always start off with a segment called Ask Allie. And if you have a question you would like to explore here on Growing Edge Live, why don't you send your question to me? You can drop it in the comments here in the chat, or DM me, or email me at growingedgelive@gmail.com. So today's question comes from Jane. And Jane says, "Hi, Allie. I'm wondering if affirmations work. I'm told they do, and I want to have a more positive attitude. How do affirmations really work?" Well, this is really good. I always encourage my clients and my kids, my grandkids, the power to use affirmations and the power that they have. Some people say, it seems so basic. I've been on the spiritual path for years and years, and I don't really, use affirmations so much anymore. But I would really encourage you to use them. Affirmations aren't just positive, nice feeling sentences or phrases we say to ourselves. Affirmations actually build our consciousness. And that's what is most key and most fundamental to living a life that you absolutely love, is having the consciousness for that life. Because often we can have desires, we can want to have particular experiences in our world, but our inner life, our thoughts about ourselves and other people's can get in the way. And so, sorry about that. So affirmations are a wonderful, easy practice that we can do. It doesn't take long, and we can do it throughout the day to help us get back on track with what's most important to us. What's most important? I would imagine what's most important is what we're creating, meaning the experience we're having in the moment. And because due to the law of attraction and the law of right action, the law of reciprocity, all of those beautiful metaphysical laws, they say that what we think about comes about. What we are focusing our attention on seems to become our reality. So having a practice of saying affirmations can bring us back into alignment with what it is we want to experience. So what I do with my clients is help them to create really positive affirmations that align with the kind of experience they want to have in their life. Maybe it's more peace, maybe it's better relationships, maybe it's more creative flow or abundance or better health, whatever it is. And so affirmations, to begin with, have to be something that aligns with what it is you're interested in, what it is you want to create for yourself, or the experience you want to have, the feelings you want to have. And so it's very important that it's filled with words that make sense to you, your own words, not somebody else's words. And it's also important to have it be believable to you, because if we have an affirmation, let's say, I am a millionaire and I have all the money in the world to spend. That's a silly example, I know, but we don't believe that. Our reasoning mind thinks that, well, unless it's true, of course, but our reasoning mind says to us, if that isn't the case, that that's probably not likely. And our ego mind will bring up all reasons why that's not true. And so we want to have an affirmation be close enough to our reality that our ego mind can actually believe. And so it's very important to craft statements, because an affirmation is an affirmative statement, and it's usually best if it's short enough that you can memorize. Now, I help my clients to craft statements that are short enough to memorize, that is very believable to them, but stretches them a little bit beyond their current experience. So let's say, for instance, you're someone that has a lot of anxiety. To say something, to have an affirmation like, I am anxiety free and I enjoy every situation I find myself in. Now that might be where you want to be, but it's probably a little too far out of your world of reality to really have your ego mind buy it. And so we just take a little bit of a baby step forward, maybe not all the way into what we're going for, but a baby step, in between where we want to be and where we are now. So a small stretch. My phone keeps bothering me, excuse me. So what we want to do is create a statement, maybe using the starting of, I'm willing to be more free. I'm willing to have less stress in my life. I'm starting to find myself more engaged and more involved with activities and conversations and situations that lead me to feel comfortable and relaxed. And so we start to say statements that move us in the direction of where we're headed, but not actually so far into the future, into our vision, into our goal, or into our dream that we don't believe it. So I have developed a practice that every day I have one statement that I say that sort of gets me grounded into my own energy, my own reality, my own vision, and my own dream. And I call this a soul purpose statement. And currently mine is, I trust myself. I trust my natural wisdom. I embody my authentic power, and I embody my sovereignty. I am here. I am free. I am love. Now, that's kind of long, and it's taken me, since January, it's 8 months now to memorize it. But those simple affirmations, I trust myself. And when I say it, I feel it. I feel inside my body. And I begin to get curious about that, about the ways I do trust myself. I trust myself to be friendly. I trust myself to be creative. I trust myself to take care of myself. I trust my wisdom, my natural wisdom. I know that my body has a natural wisdom. It knows how to take care of itself. It knows how to breathe. It knows how to move. It knows how to prepare a meal. So I trust myself and I trust my natural wisdom. Now, that's just the first phrase in my soul purpose statement, but just saying that does something inside me. It gives me a sense of being centered in myself and belonging to myself. It gives me a sense of that I'm important. It helps me prioritize myself, and it helps me to engage in the world in a more authentic and present way. So, Jane, you said, you asked, do they really work? And I can say yes. Affirmations really work. If you use them, if you believe them, if they help you stretch a little bit further into who you want to be and what you want to experience, give it a try for yourself, because there's lots of good ideas out there. There's all kinds of things that coaches and authors and teachers tell us to do, to implement into our lives, to create more fun and joy and prosperity and health and what have you. But it takes you actually putting it into action. So we have to take action. So write yourself an affirmation, start using it every day, and start proving it to yourself that it actually works. And maybe you start writing a little bit in your journal every day about what happens. Day one, this is when I started writing and using my affirmation and this affirmative practice, and start to write a little bit about it. And you'll see your consciousness will expand. For me, it's about trust. For you, it could be for something completely different, but give it a go. Start saying your phrase, your affirmative sentence, your declaration to yourself or out loud even, and start journaling about it. And you'll see, you'll start building the consciousness to be able to actually experience more of what you're going for. I hope that's helped. Thanks for the question. Okay, so now we're going to transition into my next segment, which is my interview with this amazing, amazing woman, Ashley. I can't wait for you to meet her. I met Ashley, gosh, I don't know if it was maybe 15 years ago. She came to my house. I was doing a little presentation of some sort in our little valley of the Upper Ogden Valley. And Ashley showed up at my house, and I noticed her because she was looking at some of my art that was hanging in my house. And then afterwards we were introduced, and we really hit it off, and we'll probably share a little bit more about our relationship. But I want to share her bio before we get going so that you can meet her in person. So Ashley's been deeply involved with art. She is an artist her entire life, as she is the daughter of the late world-renowned sculptor Bob Bennett. She worked apprenticing with her father in the process of creating bronze sculptures, and found her own path creating paintings and designing pendants for 38 nonprofits and showing in galleries all over the country. She currently co-owns Bennett Sculpture Carmel with her mom. Ashley inherited her father's artistic talent and strong feel for lines and design. She has combined this with an incredible sense of color and shape and texture to create her own unique, unmistakable style of painting. In developing her style, art reflects all that is important to her. She is inspired by God, nature, community, and philanthropy. So welcome, Ashley, to Growing Edge Live. I'm so, so happy to have you here.
Well, thank you for having me.
Oh, you're so welcome. So it looks like you're in your gallery. Can you tell us a little bit about, where you are right now?
Okay, so I am in Carmel by the Sea, and I'm in the middle part of the gallery right now, which is also my studio is in the middle of the gallery currently as well. So I'm sitting kind of in my studio in my gallery. So yeah,
beautiful, beautiful. And actually, I was there just a few months ago visiting, staying in the area, and so I actually got to experience that space. It's really special. the whole area is special. I mean, you live in paradise, so close to the Pacific Ocean, so close to so many amazing artists and galleries and restaurants, and there's so much culture. There's so much. There's a particular energy there that is very fun to be around. So
Yes.
It
goes back to the roots of this town. Was founded in that bohemian movement. A lot of bohemian souls came from the Bay Area, from San Francisco, from all over the world. And so it's a special place where it's 1 mile, but in the 1 mile, there's over 70 galleries. And somehow we've been able to hold on to that creative tradition in this town. You can feel it when you're walking around,
yeah.
Lots of authors and poets and musicians and visual artists have landed here at some time in their life, and it's pretty fun. There's unique things all around.
Yeah, gosh, there's so many directions that we could go, and being artists and both really enjoying that. It's well, we'll probably get more to that the second part of our show, but to begin with, this show, Growing Edge, is all about the growing edge of our own evolution, our own becoming, the growing edge of where we are as humanity. And I selected you as a guest, not only because you're my friend, but I see you're always on the edge of creation. You're always evolving. You're always, it seems like anyway, I don't, know exactly, but it always seems like you're following your dream, that you're creating something and supporting some good cause. And so I'd like to go back a little bit.
Okay.
What's your spiritual journey been like? What's your evolutionary journey been like? Who were you as a little one, and how did you get to be the you are today?
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, obviously it's been a long journey because I'm 49 now, almost 50. But as a little person, I lived with my mom in a small cabin with no running water or electricity. My parents were divorced very young, but really living off the grid, for the first part of my life until I was in kindergarten. We actually lived there a couple of years as I started school. But I think that having all of that open space and time really lent to an active imagination and being connected to nature, and just being in that environment of like, oh, we're at the river today, I'm going to build sandcastles, or everything that I had around me I didn't have siblings, so I had myself to hang out with. And my mom was all about creating a world, of connection in a sense. And then my father was, a very famous artist. And during that time, my parents, they were divorced when I was young. He was traveling quite a bit, and I would see him on weekends, and that was a whole nother world. It was very fast paced, and he was very progressive as an artist. He had a twin brother, and they really pushed each other. So I saw that there wasn't really a lot of limits to creativity. And for me, creating is a spiritual practice. It's when I feel most connected to God or source, or I think in my mind, being a creator, being a maker is somebody that is connected with the energy that's around them and what inspires them. And so I think for me, it started at a really early age of being able to recognize that. I did, however, say I was never going to be an artist. But guess what? That's what I do. So I think my spiritual journey, I'm still obviously on it. I think I'll be on it probably for the rest of my life. There's so many different components to it for me. It's nature. It's what you said in my bio. It's what inspires me is really my spiritual path. I have deep empathy, and I, like you said, a lot of my work is connected to a project or a cause or something like that. And I felt called my entire life to just dive into things. If I feel a calling, then I just say yes. Sometimes I say yes to way too many things, but it all works out. It all works out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you said that creativity is spiritual for you.
Mhm.
And I feel the same way. I feel that artists, in whatever their medium is, we are bringing the invisible into form,
Mhm.
whether it's through music or sculpting or painting or writing or whatever, acting. We're bringing the invisible, whatever that is, whatever we're inspired by, nature, for example, bringing that into reality. That seems like such an amazing thing to be a part of. Can you talk a little bit about that and why you call it spiritual? Why would you say that's a spiritual experience?
Well, so I work in many different mediums. I'm a sculptor, I'm a painter. I work in all different mediums. So I'll answer this question first by saying, because it's very different working on something 3D for me than working on something that is on the wall. When I start painting, a lot of times I'm quiet for a minute with myself to be able to get almost like a meditation, just to be able to get into the flow. But a lot of times I feel like whatever I'm creating it for somebody, for the right space, for the right person. It's something that they'll look at every day, and it's going to inspire them in some way. They're going to be connected to it when they come into the gallery, and then they're going to bring it home with them, and it's going to live with them. And there's going to be a special connection, something that I'm able to offer to them that I don't even know. So I have to trust that, right? So for me, once I start flowing in that flow of color and texture, and I paint a lot of, angels and tree ladies and things, with floating heads. And, a lot of our work is similar, but different, and so as I'm going through that color and that texture, I'm really thinking, okay, this is a special piece, and it's for a special person, and it's going to have meaning that I just don't even know. And so that feels very much like part of that process. And then with sculpture it's different. It's a different feeling because you're holding it in your hand. It's your hands, and I thought about it a lot, learning from my dad. I can still, he's been gone for 20 years. I can touch one of his sculptures and I feel like I'm holding his hand, So when you're creating sculpture, it's kind of a different energy that you feel. I feel connected to it in a different way, I guess. And then creating pieces for people is a whole nother level of, like you said, bringing something into the world that does not exist. And a lot of times I have a lot of commissions. I just did an installation in Utah, actually, a 15-foot piece. And it's something I'm so very proud of. I just couldn't believe I pulled that out of my brain, and to see it standing that tall was a remarkable feeling. The process with the clients was really special. It wasn't rushed. It's very intentional. They didn't know what they wanted. They wanted sculptures and these 4 roundabouts, and they didn't know. And they wanted it to be meaningful. So really it was a process of me not just pulling something out of myself, but trying to gather what was important to them and what they wanted to be as a part of this really important property, this area, So, and then going through all of the things, the meaning and the pattern and the shape and the stance and the symbolism of where they're placed. They're placed. They're all going to be north, south, east, and west. They're guardians of the seasons, so they're symbolic of each season, which Utah has each season. So I think that creative and spiritual process is folding all of those things into something and then having it be something that connects with others.
Yeah, and wow, I've seen on social media some pictures that you've posted of these amazing, how 15 feet, 16 feet?
15, 15, yeah.
And are they all the female form?
They're all the female form. So the first one's been installed. We're working on the next 3. They will be installed by actually by the end of October. So we're trying to get them all installed before the snow flies. And then I've also been working on some large wall reliefs using the same patterns cut from the metal. They're 10.5 feet. And they'll be in a show in Reno in September. So that's kind of fun too. Like,
wow.
Yeah.
It's so exciting hearing the passion that comes through when you're explaining this, when you're talking about this work that you do. And I get a sense, and I know this myself because I so resonate with everything that you're saying about the creative process and being an artist. I get a sense that this isn't just something you do. This isn't just a job. This is who you are. Like, you can't escape from this artistic mind, the way you see the world and view the world and interact with people. It's like, it's all this amazing thing that who you are and how you roll. And artists must be, we're a different breed, I think, than a lot of people.
Yeah, this never turns off. It's like nonstop things come to you, and there's just never enough time to be able to execute them all. But what we can execute is absolutely, it fills me. If I'm not creating, I become really grumpy and off balance, and it's not good, So it's like the momentum that pushing myself forward all the time is it's in creating. It's in making beautiful things that don't exist, that nobody needs, but everyone needs, Oh my goodness.
So how does it
business of the year last year here in Carmel through the Chamber of Commerce. And that was my acceptance speech of thank you for letting me have a business where I can create things that nobody needs, but everybody needs. So
absolutely. Yeah. And when you're talking about creating each piece, when you were talking about the paintings, creating each piece with not the absolute identity of that person in mind, but knowing that you're creating it for someone, that it's going to be in their home, it's probably going to be in a very special place. And people don't need art, but those people that can afford to purchase art definitely would probably argue with me, and that they absolutely need it. And
they do need it. Yeah. And there's such a different feeling. I sell some prints and things like that as well, but there's such a different feeling and a different energy of a piece of original artwork. And I think that people get hooked once they have that special piece, that every time they walk by it, it gives them a feeling. They can see the texture, they can see the color, it hooks them.
It does. Sure. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we're going to take a short break. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes. So we'll talk about that energy a bit more in a minute.
All right.
You are a gift. That is the absolute truth. You are a gift, a blessing to the world, a way that the infinite love of God shines itself, shares itself, and expresses itself more fully in the world. You are a gift and a blessing. Please take that seriously. Take it as your honor. Take it as your opportunity to be a light that shines for others. Be that bright light of God's love that's the truth of who you are. And enjoy it, because you deserve it.
We're back. So we're talking about creativity and spirituality and doing good works in the world. And I know, and I was feeling a little bad that I didn't have my pendant on this morning as we've been talking about you creating pendants, sculpting pendants for good causes. And so I want to move in that direction a little bit. When I met you and you actually gifted me a pendant of one of your tree women. And it's one of my, I've been wearing it for, gosh, I don't know how many years now, ever since you gave it to me. And it's so special to me. And what I know is you create pendants, not just for general sale and just, to enhance people's lives, but you actually work with organizations, nonprofits, and that are doing good works in the world. Can you talk a little bit about how that all came to be? Because many of us have ideas of wanting to make a bigger impact in the world, and this seems like the perfect marriage of an artist with such talent coming together with an organization that's doing good work and somehow combining that. How did it all happen for you? What was your first collaboration?
So my first collaboration was for Image Reborn, which is a nonprofit that is in Utah. They're in Park City. They do retreats for women same age and same stage of breast cancer. And the retreats are basically, it's a weekend of self-care, self-care and being pampered by others, I guess, too, because there's like massage and yoga and being able to have that connection with another woman at the same age and the same stage of breast cancer, which a lot of times, I think that people that are struggling with something like that, to find a community that really can relate with them is very impactful. So the way this all came about was a very good friend of mine, Eileen Burke, was on their board, and they were getting ready to have their gala. And she was talking to me about the fact that they had so many more women signing up for these retreats than they really had capacity to be able to, with the funds and everything, to be able to accommodate, because it doesn't cost the women anything to be part of this retreat. So I was on one of my hikes, which is where I get my best ideas. And all of a sudden I was like, oh my gosh, I could just make something that, that anyone really could be able to purchase, but it could go towards that cause. And the first year they had them like up at the registration area of their major fundraiser. And they sold so many that they were able to do, I think it was something like 30 more women than they would have not been able to. And I thought, gosh, that's like, it's for something small, that's a big impact. It's life changing for those.
What was the pendant? What was the image of?
It was a heart, and it had like a rose coming out of it. So kind of like new growth coming out of the heart. And so that was the very first pendant. I had never made jewelry, but I did grow up in a bronze foundry, so I knew a little bit about the casting process. But I really dove into it. Like I dive into most everything, knowing nothing about it and then learning along the way. And so I made the pendant, and then I was like, okay, where do I go get this cast? How do I cast it? I've never cast jewelry. Figured it out. And what I found was from that first experience is what we created was, it had nothing to do with the logo. It had more to do with the mission. And so as I progressed and I started moving and creating things for other nonprofits, we really took that approach, because if you have something that's symbolic, and has meaning behind it, and logos do, but a lot of times that branding and that marketing is very different from the heart of whatever a nonprofit really embodies, So I kind of went with that philosophy from the very first design all the way through. Although there are some that have design elements from the logo or very similar. Most of the things that I've created are very kind of off base. Like this was the YWCA in Salt Lake City, and it's a angel. And so but I created 3 pendants for them because their mission is to empower women through birth, life, and then give them wings to fly. So new mothers, really educating them with and giving them resources and safety and all of those different things. And then this was the last of the 3 pendants. This was the flight. Like, now you're good. You can get out into that world and go, so.
Wow.
Yeah. So that basically started that way, just from a friend and an idea. And then I have now created all kinds of things for people. And as a way of fundraising, the organization typically resells them, and 100% of the profit goes towards their charity, I guess, or their organization. I don't know. Yeah.
Wow. So 38. That you've done 38 now. What are some of the other causes? What are the ones that sort of jump to mind that are touching for you?
Well,
they all be, but
they all are. And so one that I think had the most impact on me was the Rape Recovery Center in Salt Lake City. I created a pendant for them. And at first it was something that they gave to their volunteers. And then it was something that they sold. And I did a couple of kind of retreats within the client center that kind of stemmed off of that. So the relationship grew a little bit deeper of really understanding that community. And I was a victim of rape when I was 19 years old. And it was something that I didn't know how to completely heal myself from that, or even how to deal with it. And it was so many years later, almost 20 years later, that that I kind of dove into. The pendant was what opened the door for me to be able to find my own healing within that, and then being involved with the clients of the center and helping them to. I worked with them a couple of different years, creating artwork that was actually put into an art show that was sold anonymously. That they didn't put their names on the artwork, but they put their story, and it was so powerful because that money came back to the center, that gave so much to these people that have gone through their own part of their journey. So it was really healing, and healing for me as well, to be able to be vulnerable, and then also to be able to find the gift that was waiting there for 20 years from such a horrible situation, so I think that's one of the pendants that I have the most pride in creating.
What does that one look like?
It's a lot like their logo with the two hands. It is like their logo, but it's just a little funkier, so it's the two hands with like a sun in the middle of the two hands, and it's a round pendant.
Beautiful. Yeah, I recollect actually going to that show.
Yeah.
That fundraiser. I went to the gallery open house or something a long time ago now. That story is so touching. I can see that must have been like a gift almost from the universe. This opportunity to work with this group of people, with this organization, the women that have probably some of them similar stories to yours, and to, full circle moment to come back there, and then to have a healing through being able to bring awareness to this, awful reality that happens, which is rape, and the recovery, to be a part of that recovery for women and for yourself.
Yeah.
I can see why you would, that one was.
And actually, I was like, it was men and women in the center. And so that was something for me that I wasn't expecting when I don't know why. I think because I personalized the experience for me. And a lot of times we hear about, with rape, a lot of times it's women, but men are raped as well. And that was eye-opening for me too, to be, the whole thing was a very, very much a full circle, and it is a circle pendant too. It's in a circle. So, but yes, the universe had given me that gift for sure, to be able to use my time and my talent, and be able to share what I know about healing, but really I needed it just as much. I needed that as part of my healing too.
Yeah.
Oh,
What are you currently, what's something that you're involved with currently that is inspiring you?
Oh my goodness. I have a lot of crazy things going on right now. Definitely those big sculptures are inspiring me. And then I'll be in the Reno Tahoe International Show, which is coming up in September, and I'm pretty excited about it. There's a big sculpture walk where they take down a lot of the sculptures that are in Burning Man, that are 40, 60-foot sculptures, and they rebuild them inside and outside the convention center. And then I'll have space there for just my little baby 10.5-foot sculptures. And then I'll have some paintings and things like that there. But right now I'm currently a little bit obsessed with building big things. And working with steel, and learning, just learning something new. I think that's the funnest thing about being an artist. If you are fearless and discovering new mediums, which the steel is now led to, how do I put glass in there, and how do I put, I want to keep expanding on that. But I'm very excited about this coming up, and I'm working on commissions right now with paintings, and that's always really fun for me. I also do do some kind of crazy things like awards, special pieces for corporations, things like that. And that's always inspiring, you know, to get behind somebody's mission, not with a pendant, but even something like a little bit bigger. Just recently, I did something completely out of my box. I did a sculpture of Jack Lemmon, the actor, and it was from a caricature button that somebody drew of him in the 80s. And that piece brought me so much joy because just the expression on his face and his character, you know, and so I got to be part of them honoring him at the AT&T in this past February. But that piece brought me a lot of joy. So it feels like, I don't know. I look forward to it all. I wish I had more time to create, and there's only 24 hours in the day. So it's the way it goes. But
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Jack Lemmon. That I think I saw it and I chuckled. That was definitely something a little out of your norm for sure.
Yeah. Completely out of my norm, but really fun to challenge myself that way too.
Yeah. So, you know, when I think of Growing Edge and the evolution of things, and then I think about you and what you're doing, continuing your father's legacy. So how do you see that? Like, obviously he was a sculptor. He did a lot of incredible works for the presidents, and I don't even know, you know, half the things that he must have been involved with, maybe sports and this and that. And then here you are doing similar things, but different. You know, there's a legacy that's moving forward. What's next? And do you have people, your children, interested in art, in sculpting, will there be a continuum here?
Well, I have to say, being second generation artist it's a blessing and it's a burden at the same time, because there's very much a shadow piece that lingers around in that, right? And then there's the responsibility of maintaining, and an artwork, the responsibility of maintaining value to those pieces that were sold before me. And then also being creative, and then also thinking of what's coming next. I've never wanted to really push it on any of my kids at all. It's not the easiest lifestyle. It's not the easiest. It's like feast or famine. You got to really be able to roll with it, you know? So I've never really encouraged it, but I've always like secretly wanted somebody. I have 3 kids. So someone to, I've longed for that connection. I really love the energy between my dad and I when we were working together. It was collaborative. It was positive. It was fun. It was really fun to create with him. I think that my middle child, I mean, all 3 of my kids are very creative. I mean, they're all makers of things. My daughter crochets. She can play the piano. My boys, my youngest, he can draw almost anything, and he's got a really funny sense of humor. My middle son is very much like sculptural and 3D, and he can play, you know, many instruments and things like that. So I think that they're all kind of on the beginning of becoming. I think probably my best chance of having an artist legacy to follow me would probably be my middle son, but I don't know. But I don't know. Like I said, I've never wanted to be like, you should really do this. Even though it brings me so much joy, it's tricky.
Yeah, I can see. So when things are tricky for you as an artist, and I want to kind of move into the final kind of question and segment, when things are, you know, you're not quite grounded or can't connect with your creative muse, whatever that is, do you have a practice or anything that you do to help you to reconnect with source or your creativity? What does that look like?
Oh, well, first of all, I go completely off the rails and I cry a lot. I'm a big crier. So when things aren't going right, there's a lot of emotion and a little bit of drama behind it. So that's probably not my spiritual practice, but it does lead me to like getting it out and then being like, okay. My spiritual practice is mostly, well, recently I learned to meditate, which I've had a lifelong battle with meditation because I have a really hard time sitting still. I have got a lot of energy all the time. And so I think now that I'm, getting older, I'm like, okay, it's really important to just sit still and breathe. I recently had a hysterectomy and my doctor was like, you just have to sit still and breathe sometimes because I never noticed before, but I'm like always holding my breath instead of like letting it out because I have that high energy, right? So I've learned to meditate, which has been really helpful. And that's part of me just going, okay, I need to get a grip. I need to pull it all in and just breathe for a minute. And the other part is I love to be in nature. So if it's on a beach walk, which I live very close to Carmel Beach, so I'm down there quite often. If it's for sunset or if it's in the morning, or I like to go up into the redwoods in Big Sur and just sit in the trees, sit in the middle of the redwoods. The walking part is so good for me because I walk and I trail run and it just gets rid of anything funky that's kind of stuck, and it just busts it loose for me. And then I can see the way out. So a lot of it's in my head, but that's my spiritual practices mostly are those things. I don't know. That was a long answer to that.
No, that was a great answer.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Yeah. And I love going to church and just connecting with the music that is in the church here that we go to in Carmel. There's something for me that will fill me up. It's emotional. It gets my mind really focused, and like whatever I'm in the weeds with or whatever I'm not connected with, if I'm not connecting with God or my spiritual, self, if I'm not actually honoring myself at all, it somehow grounds me. I don't make it to church very often these days because I'm in the gallery a lot. So a lot of times on Sunday. So yeah,
I can only imagine. I mean, that must be the time that a lot of people are looking.
Yep.
Yeah. So as you were sharing those things, and I too love to be outdoors. I walk 3 or 4 miles a day and really feel inspired in the ways that you are through being in nature, the trees and all of that. And so I was thinking, and you said a couple of times, feeling funky or moving through something. And it occurred to me that, that's all artists typically seem to be able to balance the dark and the light. That even though there's a particular energy that comes from being inspired and being in the light and being in nature and being inspired in a positive way, there's also inspiration that comes from the negative, from the dark, from the funk, from the, so it's a both and, I would imagine, that's equally as inspiring, maybe not in such a great way, the darker moods, but how have the darker moods impacted some of your creative projects and being creative in general?
Well, I don't like being in that dark, funky spot. So, and I've struggled with depression my entire life. And so once I feel myself like falling down that rabbit hole, really just, I want to get out of it. So how do I get out of it? I know how to get out of it. It's moving my body. It's getting outside. It's connecting with what's real, and then it's processing it, and then it's putting it down on canvas or on paper, or it's moving it all through the process.
How would you, like, for someone that's not an artist,
Mm-hmm.
how could they use this, in their life, if we were to encourage them to maybe get a little artistic? Some people I know, I've done workshops, people that aren't artists are just scared to death of writing or drawing or painting, because it just seems like they got all this stuff in their head about why they can't do it or what have you.
Right.
How could someone that isn't an artist take what you're saying? If they're in a funk, how would you guide them, I guess?
So I would say, like, going to the beginning of your show, like that affirmation, first of all, changing that dialogue. We're all beings, creative beings. We just because we're not labeled as an artist doesn't mean that we can't create. We all have something different to offer, and art is a practice. It's like a spiritual practice. It's like changing a habit, or starting or learning something new, like fixing a car or anything like that. So I think the first thing is just changing that dialogue, and then leaning into the fact that, I do a lot of workshops in the gallery, and the very first thing I do is I lead everybody through a drawing exercise. And I'm like, okay, put a circle down, then put a line down. We're going to draw a triangle here and then a line here. And we create a stick figure. And I say, okay, so now you can't tell me you can't even create a stick figure, because that's what so many people say. They built up this fear. And I think it begins in elementary. You see other kids that draw differently than you, and they can draw a face and it looks like a face, or a tree and it looks like a tree, and yours doesn't look like theirs. And so I think that conditioning of comparison starts with art at a really young age. And it's unfortunate, because there's so much joy in just simply putting pencil to paper. I would encourage anyone to just get a box of crayons and some pencil and some paper, and just sit down and play with the crayons like you were a 5-year-old. Don't have a specific intention of what you're going to make, and sit down and put an unrealized expectation on yourself of, like, I'm going to paint this vase of flowers right now, and you've never done it before. Just find the colors you like in the box, and start like, putting it on the paper. And you can go a little bit harder and make it darker, make it lighter. I mean, I think that's where anyone could get started, right? It's in the playful part of creating.
Yeah.
Without expectation.
Yeah. Well, we're right at the end of the show, and this has been such a delight. Thank you, Ashley. Thank you so much for sharing your life, your creativity, and your growing edge. And thank you, viewers, for watching, and New Thought Media Network for producing this incredible show today. And next week, we're going to have another amazing guest, Beth Wheat, and you're going to love her too. Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you,
blessings, and I'll see you next week.
Bye.